Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, depending on when you're watching this video. Welcome back to day 3 of the 100 page per day reading challenge. My name is Jason, and today I continue to read Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. I read 126 pages today, so I met the goal and exceeded it by about 26 pages, which is good. I needed that after the day I had yesterday, which was very slow and very much almost not happening, but I made it through that, so that's good. But today I blew through the 100 pages and then some, so I'm very glad about that. The book seems to have gotten a lot better from yesterday. I didn't want to really put it down today. I kind of had to because I had life obligations to take care of today, but the book has gotten a lot better. It's just been a continuously ongoing improvement on itself, I feel like. So yesterday when I left off, they had just met Claudia, and Claudia got introduced as a young kid. So as I was reading today, it got more into the story of Claudia and, basically how Claudia got made, how Claudia killed Lestat was covered in today's reading. So I got through all that. The main character, the vampire, Luis is his name in the book. But throughout the book, they keep going back and forth between Luis and the vampire when he's talking to the interviewer. So it's a little confusing to me in that respect. But I quickly learned that it's the vampire, and then when he's talking about his life, he refers to those as Luis. So yesterday when I left off, it was Claudia was just introduced shortly before I got done reading yesterday. Today, Claudia planned to kill Lestat in the book, and they think Lestat's dead, but he's actually not. You just have to read the book to understand that, so I'm not going to go into it, but they try to kill Lestat today in the book, and it doesn't succeed, but I want you guys to read the book to understand why it doesn't succeed. I'm not going to tell you why, but it does not succeed. They try to kill him, but it doesn't work. He's still alive. So they burn the plantation down again. They burn the plantation, the first plantation, they burn another, I guess it's not a plantation, it's a townhouse. They burn a townhouse down as well. So they flee New Orleans to go back to Europe. And I believe part 2, which I read in its entirety today, was them traveling Europe. I could be wrong about that. It's all blending together, but they travel to Europe, and they go to Transylvania, they go to a few other places in Europe, and then they end up in Paris, which is where part 3 is where I'm at right now. So part 3 is, I think, them in Paris, I'm pretty sure. Because I saw that today. So they're in Paris, and they're doing their thing, staying in the shadows, living in a hotel in Paris because they really don't have a place to stay. So they're in Paris right now, and they run into Armand, which that name sounds so familiar to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's from the movies. I don't remember, but I know that name sounds familiar to me. I've never read these books before, so it's probably from the movies that I recognize the name. And so Armand gives Luis a card saying, come to this address, get rid of vampires. And on the back of the card says, bring the little girl too. So Armand clearly has been watching them for some time since they got to Paris. So he knows about Luis, he knows about Claudia as well. So where I am now, they're at the vampires, and they're watching the show, and they're bleeding this mortal chick dry right now in the story. This is where I'm at right now. Again, I had things going on today that I could not continue reading, or I would have kept going because I really am digging the story now. On a scale of 1 to 10, the starting of it, I'd say like a 5 out of 10. the first like 40 pages were clearly just not interesting to me because I was gonna rate this book a 5 out of 10 based on those pages alone. But now I've read a little more and I've gotten a little more into it, and it's got more in depth as to who the vampire is and the backstory of the vampire, and introducing all these different characters that I believe could be important later on in the series. I feel like the way that Anne Rice is introducing characters like Claudia, Lestat, the way she introduced Armand, who I believe is clearly going to be a influential character in the series later on. The time that she takes to introduce these characters isn't going to be, I guess, I was afraid it was going to be character overload based on the length of the story, and I felt that you can't really cram a whole lot of characters into 354 pages, or 354. You can't cram a lot of characters into that, but she's managed to cram characters enough into it and make them interesting in such ways that I'm just like, wow, this is some incredible writing. I want more of this. You know, clearly I want more. Having read 126 pages today, I was like, man, this was gold. And I'm glad there's more than just one book in this series. That there's actually 13. Again, I've not read the series yet. It's my first time reading it through. So thank God for that. But you know, I'm just amazed at the story details that Anne Rice puts out. Just the amount of time and the character, the scenes, and just the way she builds the story up from, you know, page to page, part 1 to part 2 to part 3. The way she splits the parts out into, you know, this part's going to cover this section. Part 1 covers this section. Part 2 covers this section. Part 3 is going to cover the rest of the sections of the story. The way that Anne Rice has developed the story is in such a way that I don't know if I can go back and read it and not think that the story is just brilliant the way it is. Because honestly, it's a brilliant story from the start, beginning of the book to where I am now is brilliant. Again, like I said, I thought it was slow to begin with, but it took its time to get into it, and now I kind of understand why it was taking the time to get into the story, because she wanted to build the characters first and foremost. She really didn't want to introduce all the characters in the first, you know, 20, 30 pages. She wanted you to feel for the character of the interviewer, feel for the character of the vampire. She wanted you to feel for Lestat. So she built it in such a way that the earlier scenes, you have to understand the earlier scenes to get to the later scenes, which is good and bad in some ways, because I'm splitting this book over multiple days. This is day 2 of my 3-day read of the book, obviously. So there will be people that read this book in like 1 or 2 sittings. I'm clearly going to sit over 3 sittings, 3 days. So yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I plan to finish the book tomorrow and have the final little section of it done in the evening tomorrow. But, you know, so here is going to be my take on this. Interview with the Vampire, up to page 226 right now, because that's where I'm in the book. It's rating very high on a scale of 10. It's going to be a 9 out of 10 for me right now. The slowness in the start of it made me not want to read it. Like I said in my previously on this episode, in my last episode, I was like, the first 4 pages, I was like, I don't know if I want to read it. But then I was like, I just kept going. 55 and page 55 on has just been a constant. What happens next? You know, what happens after this? What happens in the next scene? What happens on the next page? I don't want to stop. I had to stop myself because I had life events happen today that I needed to be taken care of. So I was like, I gotta stop reading. I made my 100-page mark. I didn't want to, but I was like, I have to because I have things I gotta do. I have a life to live outside of just reading and making these videos for you guys at night. So here we are with my totals I've gotten so far today. So far this month, in 3 days, I read Clive Barker's Hellbound Heart 176. That's the total book there. It's 176. Interview with the Vampire, I read 100 pages yesterday. So my total for yesterday was 276. So I'm over the 100 page a day goal. If I don't make it a day, I can read, 25 pages one day and be okay, but I don't want to. So here we go with Interview with the Vampire Day 2. 354. I read 126 today. My 3-day total is 402. So if I don't read at all tomorrow, that's fine, but I still am going to read tomorrow. I'm going to keep adding to that total. I can skip a day and be fine. I can skip a day. I can skip 2 days and be fine because I'm at 402. Well, no, I can't. I can't skip 2 days. I can skip tomorrow and be fine, but I'm not going to skip tomorrow. I'm going to read tomorrow. I'm going to try to make my 100 pages tomorrow because I really want to keep this track record going. What I'm hoping for tomorrow is to finish Interview with the Vampire so I can come on here and be like, hey, I finished the book. Here's my honest review of the last, 100. Let's see, 120 or so pages of the book. Here's what I thought of the last little bit of the book because I honestly feel like finishing the book tomorrow will put it on pace to start another book on Monday morning. And the next book I'm going to start after tomorrow, if I can bring this up, my book list, Jason's book list, will be The Vampire Lestat, which clocks in at 562 pages. So that's going to be a very, very long book to read. Which is about where I wanted to start the next book at, was 562. Like I said, I'm going through all these Vampire Chronicle books next. So Queen of the Damned after that, we have 514. The Tale of the Body Thief is 443. That's going to be a 2-day read, maybe 3-day. This will be at least a week-long read, so I should get done with that probably on Friday next week. So let me see here very quickly. Let me see what this is, guys. So my reading list. I finished Interview tomorrow. So I finished this tomorrow, and this is gonna be Interview. This will be Anne Rice. Valentine books. This completion date here is when I finished the book. This is not when I started it. This is when I finished it. So if I finish tomorrow, it'll be 5/4/2025. Pages read. The pages read is where I'm just counting the pages read that day. Total pages read is my total for the month so far. So 402 for the month. And I'm just typing in. I should just be able to. I should be equals this. I'm going to fix that actually, guys. I'm going to fix this stuff here, guys. Oh, man. Plus this 276 equals this plus this. So this is where I am. It's still gonna be 402. But if I then drag this down, because this is looking at H6, H5. Okay, no, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. Never mind. That's not gonna work, guys. Never mind. Anyway, so this will just be a running total of my pages per day that I've read, in addition to the pages of the day before. Ideally, let me put this over here. Let me put this on here. Ideal pages read for May. Should equal 3,100. So let's merge this into that. So ideal number of pages per day is going to equal that. Actual number of pages read in May is going to equal, and then I want to auto sum these guys. What in the world? Alright, that's not right, dude. That's not right, boys. It's alright, boys. Something's wrong with that one. Actual number of pages read in May. Merchant Center. This equals auto sum of these. Auto sum these. Nope, that's not right, dude. That's not right either, chat. Alright, hang on. Actual number of pages read in May. Auto sum. No shit, dude. Cool, it's auto sum. Gosh dang it, dude. Alright, hang on here, boys. We are trying to get this fixed here, boys. Auto sum. It doesn't want to work that way, dude. Okay. Alright, boys, but yeah, I'm going to put my actual number of pages I read at the very bottom of my spreadsheet here. Under ideal, this should be bolded and italicized. Bold, italicized, underline. So at the end of May, I'm going to have an entire... I'm going to keep track of the number of pages I read over here, obviously, and the total number of pages read. And then at the end of May, I'm going to compare it to my 3,100 page goal. This right here, the ideal pages, is the goal to read. And this actual pages I read in May. So at the end of the month, I'm going to see how much I do and how successful I'm either making or missing the goal and by how much I missed it. So, and then I'm going to make another row here. That's going to be Merchant Center. Difference between, it should be the ideal pages and the actual pages. Alright, boys. Bold, italicized, that one. Shoot. Hang on, let me get these. Don't merge these. Hang on here, boys. Good merge these here. Yeah. Oh wait, that's not what I want to do. Alright. Alright, here we go, boys. Alright, we're gonna just merge these here. Merge this one. I'm sorry, I messed that up, boys. I messed that up. Hang on, merge these here, dude. This is 3,100. Man, dude. Alright, merge this one. We're going to merge this one as well. And And merge this last one here, dude. Merge this one. Alright, boys. So here we go. We're gonna, at the end of the month, I have my ideal pages read for May is 3,100, which is the total of 31 days May times 100 pages per day. Actual number of pages read in May will be the auto sum of this row here of H3 through H33. Will sum up all the pages read, and the difference will see how much I read or don't read by for the month of May. So there is my set for the rest of the month now, and I've thought about it. Alright guys, I will see you all tomorrow with the check-in. Peace.